What's going on, YouTube family? T.O. here, Simplistic Fishing, back at you tonight for some more lake breakdowns. We've been hitting up some pretty big lakes, Lake Conroe, OHIV, Lake of the Pines, all those bigger lakes, and we've kind of lost focus on some of the smaller lakes. So I didn't want to leave you guys out. Those of you guys that really enjoy fishing those smaller lakes, maybe a kayak fisherman or guys with maybe the smaller boats, things like that. This is going to be a great lake for you guys to go check out. This is Lake Fairfield in Fairfield, Texas. It's just southwest of Richland Chambers Reservoir. And tonight, we're going to go jump into this thing and see what we can uncover. Let's go. Just like we always do, the first thing I want to do is I want to take you guys out to the Texas Park and Wildlife fishing page to talk to you a little bit about the lake, just some of the basic information. So first off, I talked about this in the intro, but the Big Brown power plant was permanently shut down in 2018. So Fairfield's no longer a warm water fishery like it used to be, but there's still bass in there and still some pretty good fish to be caught. The location is 5 miles northeast of Fairfield off of Farm Road 488. Its surface acres are about 2,159 acres with a maximum depth of about 49 feet. So it has some pretty decent depth to it, although it's kind of hard to see on Google Earth the fact that it has decent depth. The fluctuation, only about 4 feet. It's moderately clear, and the conservation at pool is 310 feet. It does say that it has hydrilla along the shoreline as well as American lotus, common cattail, common reed marine, naiad, moderate to heavy and shallow areas. So kind of all kinds of just fun stuff to fish around, cover and stuff like that. They have largemouth bass, catfish, and tilapia. I went out and looked at the lake record. The lake record is actually 13 pounds for a largemouth bass, but the last time it was recorded was in 1987. So not sure if they still have the big hogs in there, but I'm sure they got some really good fish out there for sure. As far as angling opportunities, it says largemouth is fair. From what I understand, this is a good to excellent lake from the people that I've talked to. So I would definitely go check this one out. And then it just gives some more information about fishing and cover and structure and stuff like that. So that is the fishing page. Let's jump over. Let's get into Google Earth, see what we can uncover. So let's go ahead and jump into Fairfield Lake. Now, we talked about the Texas Park and Wildlife fishing page. Now it's time to talk about what we can uncover here. So just like we always do on all the Google Earth videos, over here on the left-hand side, I broke it down for you guys by offshore hotspots. So we'll talk about that here in a second once we get done with the Google Earth side. So these are all the different offshore hotspots. There's not a ton of them here. You've got some underwater points to fish and things like that. We'll talk about those here in just a minute. Then we can also look at channels, so creek channels, pond dams, stuff like that. I've got all those marked with these tracks. We've also got different areas where I was able to locate some rock on this lake, which there's not a ton, but there's a little bit of rock there, and then some ditches, different types of cover, maybe lay down, stuff like that. The boat ramps, and then of course the pond dams that we could find as well. So I'm going to bring this over, pull this back over here to the left-hand side. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the date on this to 5 of 2012. So May of 2012. So I'm going to draw this back to May of 2012. And when I do this, you're going to notice that everything got pulled down. And so that's the perfect image that I could find in order for us to go through this lake. So let's do like we always do. Let's start up here at the dam. And we'll work our way down, and we'll finish back here at the dam again. So didn't see too much in here. Of course, these images, they're all over the place, and there's a lot of hydrilla and stuff like that on this lake. So your weed lines are going to fluctuate quite a bit. But there were some different things that I noticed in here that we could really hone in on. One was there's a little ditch right in here. You can just barely see it, but I went ahead and marked it for you. Sometimes those little ditches, just those little things that are different on the bank line, can be really the key to finding things. So there's a little ditch there that I marked for you guys. As we move back in here, I didn't see too much on the bank line that I could really mark for you. Just a lot of hydrilla cover and stuff like that. There is a dock over here, so you could definitely want to fish around the dock, especially considering that's the only dock on the entire area. Now, hopefully you can still get back there and fish it. There's also a boat ramp over here. You could take a look at and fish around the boat ramp. You guys have heard me talk about boat ramp patterns before. If you can get on a boat ramp pattern, they are really fun, and you can catch some really big fish just fishing right there on and around the edges of the boat ramp. All right, and then moving on down, didn't see too much on these points or anything. There is some riprap here that you could fish, though. So that's pretty nice. Now, I don't know if you can get underneath there or not. It was kind of hard to tell if that has an opening or not. I don't think it does. I think it's all blocked off. So you've got some pretty good riprap just right in here that you could fish for sure. And then moving down, when we get a little bit further in here, finally got to an area where I could see some stuff, where there was actually some laydowns or some stuff like that going on here. So you can see I've got them marked here. Now, what I had to do is I had to move around on my different dates to figure out what in the world I was looking at. So here you can see that there's some rock out here. There were some laydowns down in here. There's a laydown in here that's kind of barely in the water that you could check out as well. So some pretty good stuff right in that area. As I move further down here, there's another one of those little ditches that I was telling you about where it just changes. For whatever reason, it just changes right in that area. Now, I think if we draw that back, we'll see that ditch a little bit better. You can see that ditch kind of goes a little bit further down through here. So I would definitely look in that area. Again, those ditches, they're interesting. And notice how there's a hard spot there. There's hydrilla on both sides or some kind of cover, grass or whatever, but there's a hard spot right there. So that hard spot's probably going to be a really good area for you guys to be able to locate something. All right, so as we move further down here, we get out here to the, I think this is the output. We get out here to the output. This is really interesting. Doesn't look anything like this if you're down there now. That water's going to be up and you're not even going to notice that this was there. But when we draw it back, we can actually see some stuff in here. So there's a little, like a plateau that comes up right here. So you've got these ridge lines and these drops that are on the sides. So right in here, you're going to have a drop. Over here off this backside, there's going to be some kind of a drop. And then, of course, there's going to be a drop right in here as well. Now, on top of that, I found some rock piles, just really small ones. They don't look very big, but you can see here I marked them, just a couple different areas where there's some rock or some debris down there. So you definitely want to go look at that. You got moving water, all kinds of good stuff for that right there. That would definitely be a spot that I would go to, probably one of my first spots that I would go and stop at. All right, so as we move further down the bank line down here, what we're going to find down in here is just a couple different laydowns and things to take a look at. And of course, on this image, you can't see it, but we'll be able to see it when I pull it back up. But there's some additional laydowns right here in this area. Also some really good, just grass lines and stuff like that. There's some brush hidden back in here as well. All right, so then moving on further down here, we've also got a ditch that's down here. So this one looks really good. I would for sure fish around in that area. And as we move further down, not seeing too much, right? It just couldn't uncover a ton on this lake. The fluctuation is only 4 foot, and there's not a lot of stuff on the bank line. But what we did find, I think, is just golden stuff. Right here, another good one where we have a really good creek channel that comes down here. It swings, and then it kind of comes out into the back of this cove. This would be a really good area right in here to focus in on, especially if they're up shallow. As we move further down here, we've got some pond dams. So there's a pond dam back in here. If you see me draw this back to 2012, you'll be able to see it a lot better. Here's where that pond dam is. So you want to fish on the inside of that pond dam, right inside of here, but then also fish the outside of it as well. So make sure to take full advantage of that because that's one of the few things in this area that's a lot different than everything else. And then if you get further back in here, when the water's up, it's not going to be down this far, but there's a pretty decent little channel that comes right through here. So you could just focus on the edges of the grass right around that channel, and you should have some success just fishing around that area. As I move further up here, there's another one of these little ditches or creek channels. I couldn't tell if it was a creek or not just based on where it is, but it does make a pretty decent little ditch right in here. So it definitely put some focus there and see if you can see anything relating to that. As we move further up here, we've got another one of those ditches that comes over here. This one's just like in a random spot. It'll probably look better if I pull this up. You'll see it a little bit better. So there's where the ditch is. Comes right through the grass right in there. And right on the edge of it, there's a lay down there as well. So check that out and see if you can find anything relating to that. Looks like there could be a potential old roadbed there as well. If you look here, I don't know if this is an old roadbed or just power lines. Could just be power lines, but it could be an old roadbed too. If it is, that roadbed would run straight through there. So definitely look in that area. All right, so then moving on down here, just a couple small things to look at. I had some laydowns that were over here. Again, if I move that date up, you're going to see the laydown a lot better. There it is right there. And then also we have a decent little creek channel that comes back through here as well that you could take a look at. And again, it's not going to look like this when you go out there. It's going to look totally different. But trust me, where those tracks are, that's where that creek channel is. Also, you have the main boat ramp here with the restrooms. There's some shallow rock, like riprap and stuff along the bank line here. Again, I'll pull it up so you guys can see a little bit better. It's kind of hidden underneath all that grass, so it's kind of hard to tell it's there. There's also another rocky area right over in here. And this point looks really good. I would definitely fish around that point. There's rock on both sides of that point. So definitely a good area to be putting some attention to. And then as we move a little bit further down here, just again, lots of grass, lots of hydrilla, but some pretty good creek channels back in here. So I marked them for you. You can see them all here. This one's actually coming out of an old pond or something. This is a decent little creek channel back here. You've got a lay down back there as well. You've got some more creek channels up here to take a look at. So just some really cool stuff to fish. This looks like a lake that I would have a lot of fun on. I love fishing around hydrilla and grass, and this is just right up my alley. Now, as we move a little bit further up here, again, the water's still down, so it's going to look a lot different. But right here, you can see we've got several different laydowns that are here. Let's pull that up, and you'll see what it actually looks like today. So this is what it would look like today. So some of those laydowns are in the water, and some of them aren't. It's just going to depend on how high the water is. As of right now, for this image, which was November, those laydowns were submerged a little bit, so you should be able to find some activity off of them, or at least relating to them. And then as we move further up here, we got a couple more of those ditches that I was telling you guys about. So pay close attention to those ditches and see if you can find anything relating to them. A lot of times you'll get a grass edge there as well, and that's always a good spot to look at. And then we're going to talk about the offshore stuff, but there was a couple more right up in here around this ramp that I wanted you guys to look at. So I'm going to pull this back to 2012, and we're going to take a look at what I found here. So we've got some laydowns in here. So there's one right there. There's one there. And again, this image isn't very clear. There's another one right in there as well. And of course, here you've got your boat ramp too. So if we move this back up, you'll see it a little bit better. There's your boat ramp. There's your laydowns that are back there that you could flip around. And then you move up here, you've got some more laydowns in here. And then again, just more ditches. So I just marked all these little ditches that I could find where it was a ditch or a break in the grass line. And I would really just focus some attention in those areas and just see if they are relating to it. Again, you'll usually get some pretty good weed lines or edges that you can fish around when you find those ditches. You got some more stuff back in here. You've got some creek channels that are back here. You've also got a lay down, another ditch that's kind of coming through here that I was able to pull up pretty good when we pulled the water down. You'll see here, let me pull it back. Try not to make you guys dizzy, but you can see where the water's down. It makes a pretty decent little ditch right in there. And then moving up here, it kind of takes us back up to the dam. I didn't see anything else on the shoreline except for maybe right in here. There's a little creek channel back here that kind of comes through here. So maybe check out right in here, but it's going to depend on the water level. And, probably just want to scan around there and see if you can see anything with your forward-facing sonar. If not, maybe not even do that. Just fish it. Just fish this little area right here because you're going to have some water or something coming in from that little ditch. And so that's always going to be a good area to take a look at and focus on. All right, so that covers us for Fairfield from the Google Earth perspective. And again, there wasn't a ton that I could uncover for you guys, but I think what we put out there is going to be really good areas for you guys to take a look at and spend some time in those areas trying to locate the fish. Let's jump over to the Navionics side and let's just look at this map really quick and see what we can find over there. Well, unfortunately, my phone is not wanting to cooperate with me today, so we are going to use this Navionics web app instead of the phone. So all of the waypoints that we talk about here on these offshore things, you saw them. They're going to be out on the card. So if you get the card for this lake, the offshore spots will be on there. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this lake real quick. Pretty small lake, not a lot of stuff to cover with you guys, but there were some spots that I really want you to take a look at. One's right in here. Pretty good little point right here, has a nice little flat top to it with some really good breaks. So you definitely would want to look at that one. I like this one too. This one was actually marked as well. It's got a nice flat top to it. You could probably find some pretty good weed edges right around the outsides of these points. And then as you move further back in here, just a couple things back here. I really like this area right here where this little flat is. Notice how it comes out and makes a pretty good flat right off the edge of this point, and then has some really sharp contours right here off the edge of it. I would definitely look right in that spot. You also want to look right down here off of this point. It has something very similar. So definitely look at those two spots. And then as we move out, of course, just looking at points and things like that to see if there's any points that really stick out to me. And the main one As far as over here that did was right here. This point comes out pretty far. It actually comes all the way out to here for 11 feet before it starts breaking off, and it's got a really good flat top on it. So it look in this area for sure. This looks like your onshore fishing area, so I'm not sure if you can take boats back in there or not. You might want to stay away from that area for sure. But moving on down, now Navionics cuts a lot of this off, so you can't see much as far as what's going on. But there are 2 points right here, and you can see that there's some sort of a tapering point there, but it's cut off from Navionics. I marked this spot right here where that point is, and I also marked this spot right here where this point is right here. You can tell that there's a tapering point that comes off of here. It's just I'm not sure if Navionics has given us the real picture of what is happening there. All right, so then as you move further out, obviously this is a onshore fishing area up in here too, but you'd want to look at the main lake points there if you're allowed to fish there. It also looks like there's a swim area in there too, so you're just going to have to be cautious of what you can fish around and what you can't fish around. Now, as you move further over here, there's another one of those points. You can see it right here. Navionics cut it off again, but there's another pretty decent little point right here that comes out pretty far out to over here. And then here, this one's got a point with a shallow top on the top of it at 14 foot. So I wouldn't say shallow, but it has a flat top. So at 14 foot. So looking right here and looking off the edges of around these points could be really good spots for you guys to find some fish at. So then moving up here again, the Navionics stuff doesn't give us too much for us to look at. I didn't see too much in there until I got up here. Right here, we've got another one of those nice flat tops, those points that come out. Those are really good spots, really good high percentage areas to try to find fish. The spot that I really thought was one of the most interesting spots in this lake was actually right here. And again, I would love to take the boat out there and actually see if this is true. But if you look at this, this looks really good, this area right in here. So it's right off the edge of this point. It's got some really sharp breaks, and then it kind of comes out and flattens out just right off the edge of that point. That just, to me, looks like a really good point to be that I would want to fish around. So definitely go up in there and look at that. Again, I've got that marked for you guys on the card, so you'll have all these. As we move further up here, I didn't see too much other than just, your standard points and things like that. Nothing too crazy until I got up here into this cove up here. A couple spots I want you to look at. One, come out here and scan this area right in here where it gets really deep right in that area. That is like a prime spot for local people to drop stuff, brush piles, stuff like that. So I don't know. I've never been to this lake before. I'm just guessing, but I would definitely come out here and scan, down scan, side scan, all that stuff right around in this area and see if you can find any type of offshore cover, maybe man-made stuff that they put out there. So look in that area. And then also when you're coming up here, it does say a restricted area. So I don't know if you can get back here or not. Maybe that's just the restricted area, but if you can get back here, look at these points that are back here. These are really good little secondary points that you guys could be fishing off of. So guys, I hope that helps you. Hopefully you get a chance to go out to Fairfield Lake. If you've never been out there, I've got that one on my bucket list too. There's just so many lakes in Texas that I want to fish. I hope I can end up fishing all of these, but from what I have heard, this is a really, really good lake to fish. It's got some really good size fish in it to catch as well, and it's a great place to go in the fall. So if you're doing some fall fishing, definitely go out and put Fairfield on your list. Till next time, guys, make sure to go out, check out my site, simplisticfishing.com. You can get this lake with all the waypoints plus many other lakes in Texas, and it will change the way you fish. I hope you guys catch your PB. Take it easy.